All right, let's go. Guys, welcome back to some more videos. We are now in the advanced section of the 1022 recordings and lessons. I am super excited and grateful to be here with you today, wherever you may be. And if you've made it this far, just know that you are right there. You are right there to understanding some of the more complex things within the market. That I'm trying to think about, this lesson because it's so in depth, and I'm going to try to keep it under 20 to 25 minutes. I'm going to do my best, but this material is so important to understanding the actual movement behind the markets, and you will never stop learning. I still learn to this day everything about the markets and how, governments and the Federal Reserve and the banks of certain countries influence the markets and impact price movement, you know? So, economics 101, right? If you took economics in school, you would have a pretty good idea of what we're about to go over. If you've never taken economics or you forgot economics, please have a pen and paper. Please. I suggest I share with you that you have a pen and paper. I learned economics in school, and then I learned economics on my own through self-education. And I still struggle with some concepts because it's just so in depth. And economics is a way of life. It is how we know everything around us. Everything around us is based around economics and the exchange of money, the price of houses, the price of cars, the price of goods, the demand, the supply, the business, the business cycle. And let's go ahead and get right into it. Waste no more time. 25 minutes. We're going to try to keep it short, but it is a lot of material. Stay engaged, be focused, cut off all distractions because this is a more complex subject, and that is why it is in the advanced video recordings, okay? So economics is the study of how societies allocate their limited resources to meet their unlimited wants and needs. It's a complex field with various theories and concepts. By the way, when I'm reading off of the slides, I typed these myself. I typed all these myself, so I'm reading what I typed, okay? In the following slides, we will cover the concepts associated with economics. We are not going to go too in depth, for that would take too long. If you continue to hop on the recordings, I'm sorry, not the recordings. If you continue to hop on the live sessions, we will be going over economics almost every day. Some form or in some form or another, we will be going over economics, okay? So the key points are in bold, okay? And these are the key concepts of economics, the foundation, right? The underlying bricks that holds it together. And the first one is scarcity. So scarcity is the fundamental economic problem, right? We have these resources, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, and these are limited, okay? These are limited resources, and human wants and needs are unlimited. So we have limited resources, but unlimited wants as human beings, okay? And that refers to scarcity, however you want to pronounce it. Okay, so that's the first bullet point is scarcity. Opportunity cost is a concept when you make a choice, you are giving up the next best alternative, right? It helps individuals and societies make decisions about resource allocation. When you go to the store and you have money, right? And you're deciding between one item or the other, you are buying the cheaper item, giving up the more expensive item. You are also giving up the chance that it's going to be more organic, right? Healthier for you. If you choose the bad option, you're giving up the healthy option. But if you choose the healthy option, you're spending more money. So you're giving up more money, right? So there's an opportunity cost to a lot of decisions we make every single day. Same with house. You can even compare that to buying a house, right? Location, price, structure, design, architecture, everything that goes into a house. Location is the biggest one. And you're giving up when you choose to buy a house, you're giving up the alternative. Okay. Supply and demand. Supply and demand. This is huge. This is really, really big. Write this down. Okay. This is the foundation of microeconomics. Supply refers to the quantity of a good or service that producers are willing to provide, while demand represents the quantity consumers are willing to buy at a certain price. Prices in a market economy are determined by the interaction of supply and demand. If you are a consumer and you go to a store and you demand a product, you would demand the product at a lower price. Suppliers who are supplying the product want to supply at a higher price. So you have to meet somewhere in the middle. That is why supply and demand is so crucial. If you take a natural resource like oil and you look at the supply and demand, if there is a limited supply of oil, it's going to cost more because there's limited supply. If there's a ton of oil and there's a ton of it in oil, we have a ton of oil reserves, a ton of oil tankers sitting out in the ocean, not getting used. People aren't traveling. Great example of COVID, by the way. The demand is less, but the supply is more, so it costs less. Does that make sense? That's the easiest way to put that. Simplest way to put that is if you have more supply, okay, and less demand, it's going to cost less. And if you have more demand and less supply, it's going to cost more. Okay, write that down. Write that down. Okay, our fourth bullet point is gross domestic product, GDP. Okay, GDP measures the total value of all goods and services produced within a country's borders in a specific time period. We usually look at quarterly GDP. We look at quarterly GDP growth every single 3 or 4 months. And it actually comes out on Forex Factory. And so as a nation, as the US takes all of the numbers and crunches it into a data release, you look at the overall gross domestic product. Are we making money? Okay. Are we producing enough goods and selling it to other countries and selling it within our own borders to make profit? Is our country, the US, are we profitable as a nation? And usually that's a sign of spending money, at Target, Walmart, Amazon, Google, right? If all these companies are doing really well, that usually indicates that we have a very high or positive gross domestic product, okay? And if it's low, if we're not producing enough goods, if we're not selling enough foreign goods, and we're not buying enough stuff, then we are kind of in a recession. We are not performing well as an economy, okay? Next is inflation. Inflation is the increase in the general price level of goods and services over time. It erodes the purchasing power of money. That is why we have seen prices rise. Well, depending when you're watching this video, okay, we just had recent times of high inflation. So prices of goods and services go up with inflation, right? And then that erodes the purchasing power of the dollar. So your money is becoming less valuable as goods increase. That is why the Federal Reserve and the government of usually every single nation, okay, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of the US, the Bank of Canada, the Bank of Great Britain, they are trying to keep inflation at a 2% level. That means it goes up every year by 2%, which is the level that we keep it at. When it exceeds 2%, the Federal Reserve raises interest rates to lower inflation, okay? Unemployment refers to the number of people who are willing and able to work but cannot find employment. It is a key economic indicator. If you don't have a job, you're unemployed. Okay, you are able to work, but you can't find employment, you are unemployed. That is a number, that is a statistic. The average is 3.5%. That is the average level of unemployment here in America. When it reaches high levels, that means not enough people are working, not enough people are making money, which means not enough people are spending money, which leads to what? Recession. Okay. When unemployment is low and people have jobs and people are spending money, that leads to inflation. So you can see that all of this is a balance. There's a fine line. There's a line that we ride in this world of data and statistics. And when they fluctuate too high or too low, it leads to inflation and recession. And then when we're at a time of contentment, we are just riding this line, right, of balance. Okay. So these numbers mean a lot and impacts the markets a lot. So when the data releases, we are always looking for how investors are going to react. Okay. So let's get into a little bit of like a macro outlook, okay? Monopoly and competition. These are different market structures. So a monopoly exists when a single company dominates an industry, while competition exists when many firms compete against each other, okay? So a monopoly is oil, energy, food, um, the production of gold and silver, diamonds. Amazon is a monopoly. Okay. Amazon has monopolized the industry that they are in, selling goods. You used to only buy books. Now you can buy virtually anything on Amazon. Okay. They have monopolized their industry. Now, if you have a business, right? If you're a small business owner and you own a restaurant, that is not a monopoly, right? Because there are so many businesses competing for market share. You have a restaurant, you are competing with everybody else who owns a restaurant. You are competing for market share, for for people to come spend money at your business. And you are not the sole owner or proprietor of that service or product. And that leads to competition. Okay. Fiscal policy and monetary policy. Okay. This is really important. This is really, if you're going to understand one thing, it's going to be fiscal and monetary policy. Okay. These are tools governments and central banks use to manage the economy. Fiscal policy involves government spending and taxation, while monetary policy involves controlling the money supply and interest rates. So fiscal policy would just be raising taxes on businesses or on individuals who work a job, and government spending. So how we allocate our spending, our taxpayer dollars. When we pay taxes and it goes to the federal government, and then they spend money on military, social security, education, infrastructure, new roads, supporting individual states and what is it, counties, right? There's like levels to it. There's a level at every single part of the government where they have certain types of tools to manage the level of spending and the level of taxation. One of the big ones is the state tax, where or the sales tax, right? When you go out to eat, there's a sales tax that goes to the government. When you get paid, that's a tax that goes to the government. When you purchase a home, it's a tax that goes to the government. With anything, everything is taxed. Every single thing is taxed in this world. There's always a fee, right? There's always this extra charge that they add on to everything. And that is how the government makes money, through taxes. And then how we allocate spending is really important, because if we're spending more than we're bringing in, we're in a deficit, which is what we are currently in now, which means that we are spending way more money than we're bringing in. Where we would like to be is where it's equal, where we're spending and we're making money enough to equal zero. Okay. So the federal deficit right now is really large. It's in the trillions. It's like $30 trillion and above. And we're in debt. We are in extreme debt. Okay. So we need to what? We need to get better at spending and earning money as a country. And that is through politics, which is a whole nother topic. Okay. Monetary policy is the control of supply, the supply of money, and interest rates. Wow, this is a complex topic, guys. Bonds are US Treasury bonds is basically how you monitor supply. When you print more money and inject it into the economy, you are giving people money to spend on certain things. Now, when you buy bonds, you are buying the money back, okay? And this fluctuates the price of goods, the price at which you can take a loan out, and other things. So interest rates also is a key part in the price of goods and services and loans. So if you have high interest rates, things are more expensive. It's more expensive to get a loan for a car, for a house, for a business startup. When interest rates are low, it doesn't cost as much money to get a loan for a house, a car, or for a business. And so these are really key tools that the Federal Reserve uses to balance out the market. Okay, balance the economy, make sure the economy is in I call it equilibrium. So it's just at a very middle point, right, on this big chart. If you were to look at a chart with a line on the vertical and a horizontal side, you would have the middle of the chart would be equilibrium, which is where we would like to be as a nation. Every country wants to be at equilibrium, but it fluctuates all over the place depending on a whole lot of factors, okay? International trade. This covers concepts like comparative advantage, tariffs, trade deficits. It explores how countries benefit from specialization in trade. Saudi Arabia, US, Russia, all these countries have a specialization in trade, right? They specialize in oil. Some nations specialize in food. Some nations specialize in metals. A big one, a really big one is well, not copper. God, what is it? Metal. Like cars. Um, to build a car, right? Where do you get the materials for that? A nation specializes in producing and creating that product. So international trade, if you're the US and we're producing a lot of advanced technology and we're selling it to other countries, that is kind of our specialization. And we trade with other countries and they trade with us. And that would be international trade. Now, tariffs would be if we place a tariff on Russia and we don't accept as much oil from Russia, we are now in a tariff, right? So the country is no longer giving us their natural resources or whatever they have to offer us, and we place tariffs or taxes on them selling us products. Trade deficits is where let's say the US is trading with Japan and we are in a deficit with them. So that means that we are getting more from Japan than we are giving to Japan. That would be a trade deficit, okay? Externalities are side effects of economic activity that affect third parties who are not involved in the activity. They can be positive or negative costs. Externalities include, COVID. They include how, the government's stability. They include natural disasters. Externalities are things that are kind of out of our control that affect the economy and affect economic activity, okay? And they can be both positive and negative. So that would be things like war. Okay, war is a big externality if you think about it. What is it? The space race is a big one, is a big externality. And what's another one? Really how developed the nation is, how educated we are as a nation. Education is a really big externality that takes side effects on economic activity, because the more educated you are as a nation, the more you're producing, the more you're innovating, the more things you're bringing to the marketplace for human beings, which is negative and positive. Okay. Public goods are non-excludable and non-rivalrous. They are typically provided by the government because private markets often fail to supply them efficiently. Public goods include transportation. Public goods include food. They include things that a sole business cannot provide to you because they do not supply them efficiently. So the government is responsible for private markets. And these come along, a lot of it, like a big one is defense. And the army. So the military, I'm sorry, the military is a private market. So the government provides the money and the resources to build a military, and that would be a public good. And that is solely provided from the government. There's not one business that is supplying this, like like an LLC, like somebody who just comes along and is like, I'm going to create a business to make tanks and jets. No, that is privately funded by the government, okay? So those are things that you can think of, right? Whereas a public good that, would be provided by a business, like an entrepreneur who comes along and is like, I want to create a new product that's solely my choice, which would be something like a water bottle, right? Like this is a good that you can sell and a company can come along and make this by themselves, right? Apple Apple's a monopoly. They took over the phone space. Okay. So that's a business that took over a public good. The government doesn't supply that, right? Apple supplies that. Okay. So that is public goods. So That's a good introduction to economics. And we will continue to go farther in depth every single day on the live sessions on how this impacts the markets. Because really, we're just trying to make money, right? We're trying to understand where the market's going, how it's going to affect it a certain way. And economics, learning how it all comes together will give you more information to make decisions on your trading. So at colleges and most high schools, economics classes can be taken where all these concepts will be taught in depth. It is not necessary to learn economics in depth to become a great trader. It does help to understand these concepts, making fundamental analysis simpler and more clear. When we host live sessions, we will go in depth on some of these topics, such as inflation, fiscal and monetary policy, GDP, and unemployment. The more learned, the better for trading. I think the next video too is going to be on interest rates. So that'll be more of an in-depth video. But guys, that's going to wrap up. It's going to wrap up this video on economics. A very just simple introduction to it. I hope that you took notes. Rewatch it if you have to understand something that you missed or you may not fully understand. And over time, you will continue to learn the ins and outs of economics, and it will help your trading immensely. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the first advanced video. Reach out if you have any questions, schedule a one-on-one, and we'll get to it and get down to the nitty and gritty. Thanks so much. I will see you all in the next one. Peace.